Our movie begins in Austria in 1768. The Empress of Austria, Maria Theresa, decides to enhance connections with friends. To accomplish this, she sends her youngest daughter, Maria Antonia, to the royal household. Maria Antonia is a 14-year-old girl who spends all of her time with her friends and with Pug, and she does not dare to contradict her mother. Her mother is confident that the marriage will cement the relationship between the two nations and improve the country's economic situation. So the daughter agrees to marry the heir to the French throne. The Versailles ambassador, who is accompanying her on her travels, will assist her. A few days later, the carriage arrives at the Austrian-French border. The royal servants complete the ceremony, entering the tent from the side of her country. After erecting a symbolic tent, after bidding farewell to her friends and leaving her dog, personal things, and clothes behind, the girl must leave everything that reminds her of her country. Maria Antonia dresses in traditional French attire and steps out of the tent. The girl is given the title of Dauphine Marie Antoinette by the French. Soon after, the Austrian Empress's daughter arrives at Louis, the king's ultimate resting place, and meets him. She meets her future husband for the first time here as well. The dukes and countess are engrossed in the situation. Some see her as an Austrian spy, while others appreciate Marie Antoinette's beauty at first sight. The girl becomes a key presence in the royal court, and the nobility never takes their gaze away from her. Concerning the attractive girl's look, manners, and breasts, a solemn ceremony is held a few days later, in which Marie becomes Louis XVI's wife. They exchange rings to formalize their relationship. Their first wedding dance is performed by the pair. They are put to bed in the evening. The curtains have been drawn to allow the newlyweds to get on with their lives. In the morning, the grandson tells his grandfather about his impressions and that nothing happened during the night. Maria is uneasy as she looks around the house where she would have to reside, since she is constantly surrounded by staff who do not allow her to be alone. She is woken up, dressed appropriately for her station, and escorted to breakfast. Marie strives to establish common ground with her husband at mealtimes, expressing genuine pleasure in his hobby of producing cheese and lox. The younger, bashful Louis is scared to approach his wife and constantly ignores her. Departing for the hunt, the girl notices that the French court is awash in rumors during ceremonial dinners, and that the king's favorite, Madame du Barry, is the subject of the most discussion. Other nobles were displeased with such manipulation and regarded Louis the Elder's activities as immoral. Maria herself is no less popular for debate because she has no intercourse with her husband and hence cannot give birth to an heir to the crown. As each day passes, the girl's social status is declining. Some describe her as sterile, while others describe her as icy. Weeping from the insults, she tries to entice her husband by coming up with different methods to hint at cupcakes every night. However, the bashful Dauphin is unable to touch his wife and ignores her while seeing Mercy's emissary. Maria finds that her mother is concerned about the lack of grandchildren, and she fears that this will have a detrimental impact on Austria-French relations. As a result, Mary must use feminine deception to entice the prince into bed. When the King of France realizes that the girl is ignoring his favorite ambassador, Mercy advises Marie to be cautious, as ignoring Madame du Bois could jeopardize Louis XVI's relationship. Moreover, the king may consider it disrespectful to his personal politics and the position he has as a result of yielding to her demands. After seeing the king's approving gesture and smile, the girl tries to converse with Dubarry but is confined to a few syllables. Gradually, the girl adjusts to life in the royal court. She no longer molests her husband but instead eats sweets as a means of avoiding sensual pleasures. The wife expresses her unhappiness and feels humiliated when the husband and his brother embark on another hunt. She wishes to have the baby before Maria Josephine, her daughter-in-law. Before she leaves, her husband vows to look after her. When the ambassador returns, he is worried about what is going on and goes to meet the king. There is no need for Louis to be concerned, knowing that his grandson has not had children in a long time and that he has no plans to disrupt the relationship between their countries. He asks a doctor to examine the king and his wife. Mary hears from her mother that all of her sisters have given birth to worthy heirs, and she is the only one who has been unable to please the empress. She tries to rebuild her marriage with her husband under duress, but they do not succeed. The situation quickly deteriorates when Maria Josephine gives birth to a brother named Louis. Maria, tired of pain and disappointment, resolves to start a new life by purchasing expensive dresses, shoes, cosmetics, and booze. She gets seduced into the opulent French way of life, where she gambles and loses a lot of money without fear of repercussions. She sneaks into a masquerade ball to discover a new way to have fun and meets a military man. A womanizer is someone who can find a method to get under a girl's skirt. The girl runs away from her spouse and meets her buddies in the morning. On her return home, The dolphin learns that the king has fallen ill with smallpox and his condition is rapidly deteriorating. On hearing of her lover's imminent death, Del Barry gathers up all the jewels the king has given her and flees. Louis XVI dies soon after, and Mary, a hedonist, succeeds him as queen. The girl's spouse is young, naive, and uninformed about state politics and economics. He resolves to back the American Revolution by demonstrating his authority to Britain after consulting his counselors. Despite the fact that France's debts grow and its economy deteriorates, Louis continues to support America in an attempt to persuade everyone of his strength and authority. Soon after, Mary turns 18 and she throws a high-profile celebration at which she lavishes lavishly. She is unconcerned about the economic crisis, poverty, or the citizens' oppression. The second, Mary's own brother, Joseph, arrives in Versailles and chooses to pay a visit to his sister. He advises her to use common sense, shift her social circle, and stay away from drinking and gambling. When the emperor meets the king at the zoo, he wants to figure out what keeps him from having children who can learn about his personal life. He demonstrates how to make a cupcake to Louis by using locks and keys as an example. After learning the basics, the king enters the bedroom and makes his first love to his bride. The queen gives birth to a baby girl 9 months later and names her Maria Theresa after her mother. The royal nobility attends the birth and surrounds the girl because they expect to witness the king's heir. However, they do not rejoice in the birth because it is a female. Mary wants to feed the girl herself, but she is forbidden by royal tradition. The happy father and husband build a country palace for his sweetheart while avoiding booze and gambling. The queen relocates to the countryside to be closer to her daughter. Louis comes to the rural house later and invites his wife to live there. On her return home, there will be a ball devoted to the warriors. She welcomes the dukes and counts of other countries, recognizing one of the guys in particular and unable to take her gaze away from him. The nobility observes but thinks the queen is respectable enough to keep her skirt up in front of this womanizer. In the evening, Mary succumbs to temptation and submits herself to the count. The two share mutual compassion and have an affair. However, Ferguson is compelled to leave due to the service and abandons the queen. The queen's daughter has developed into a true princess. Mary talks with her counselor while strolling in the courtyard. Ambassador Mercy is concerned about the king's foreign policy and requests that the girl use influence over her husband. The girl interrupts their talk by informing them that the Empress of Austria has died. The queen gives birth to a boy after another year has passed, Louis Joseph, the Dauphin of France. Louis XVI's measures plunged France into an economic catastrophe a few years ago. Disgruntled citizens have taken the Bastille and have no intention of stopping there. They will soon launch a march on Versailles, forcing the royal family to leave. The aristocracy, fearing retaliation, fled France. Mary supports her husband's decision, and Louis has no intention of departing. Hundreds of hungry and enraged men leading the French Revolution arrived at Versailles a few days later and besieged the king's residence, flinging stones through the windows. For a few seconds, Mary goes out onto the second-floor balcony and worships the people. But the crowd of people with torches, shovels, and pitchforks quietens down, continue their assault, recognizing that the poor French will have no mercy on a childish king incapable of ruling the country. The royal family departs the palace in the morning, saying their final goodbyes to their ancestral home. The king's bedroom is destroyed in the final shot. We hope that you enjoy your time and have a good day.